This is just a short test stream before work. I gotta leave here in a couple minutes, but I noticed that the audio was quiet for whenever we played videos through the browser, so check on this. Uh, House is in district work period, which means no one's going to be in the house until from September 29th to October 6th, but it looks like they're doing district work a little early, so might be a good time to reach out to maybe the people in Vermont and let them know we're big fans of their data broker law they passed. I don't know, but I don't know if I'm going to be streaming. Oh Jesus,
The
that's
House
loud.
will be in order. The prayer will be offered by our guest chaplain, Reverend John Kellogg, Christ Church, Capitol Hill, Washington, D.C.
Test, test, test. But
Let us pray.
I don't know if I'm going to be streaming after work today.
Gracious
I got to
God,
do
bless
some
the
meal
leaders
prep.
of our land.
But
Watch over our country now and in the days to come. Grant our representatives wisdom, integrity, and courage in the exercise of their duties. Give them quiet spirits and steadfast hearts as they seek to provide for the needs of our people. Amen.
Pursuant to Clause 13 of Rule 1, the Journal of the Last Day's Proceedings is approved. The Chair will lead the House in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The Chair lays before the House an enrolled bill.
H.R. 2483, an act to reauthorize certain programs that provide for opioid use disorder prevention, treatment, and recovery, and for other purposes.
The Chair lays before the House a communication.
The Speaker's Rooms, Washington, D.C., September 23, 2025. I hereby designate the period from Monday, September 29, 2025, through Monday, October 6, 2025, as a district work period under Clause 13 of Rule 1. Signed sincerely, Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House of Representatives.
Pursuant to Clause 13 of Rule 1, the House stands adjourned until 10 a.m. on Friday, September 26, 2025.
all right, so a 2 week work period, going back home, listening to your I forget the word they do it, uh, their constituents, so the people of their state, address any issues that are going on there. Huh. Okay. Well, that'll be good. Uh, yeah, I was reading. I'll talk about something for a little bit, but yeah, I read this fucking heartbreaking story. So they're planning on doing Medicaid cuts, at least cutting, the payments they're gonna make to hospitals for Medicaid claims. And there was this woman who has to, her son had some rare brain disorder, really young, so he requires like 24/7 care. He's approved for like 140 hours of uh, at-home care, like nurse cares, like doctors and whatnot coming to see him and provide him treatment. He's only getting like 50 hours of that time. The rest of the time has to be, his mother administering this treatment for her son. Treatment that, she isn't quote unquote qualified to do. It's like, treatment that is usually, done by a doctor or a registered nurse or whatnot. And there's a provision that allows parents who do full-time care for their kids to receive a salary for that work. And it's just like, with these Medicaid cuts, not only is her son going to have less access to treatment, meaning that he is not, people that usually provide that treatment for him aren't going to provide it anymore because that treatment was being paid for as a Medicaid claim. And now they're cutting what the government's cutting how much they're going to give back uh, for those Medicaid claims. Say they compensated like 60% of the bill, they're going back down to like 40%. I don't know the actual numbers. I'm just throwing that out as an example. So that is reducing access to care, because providers are like, we're not going to take Medicaid anymore because we're not going to be able to make any money, servicing Medicaid claims. Uh, and it's not about making money. It's like we're not going to be able to continue operating as a hospital, as a health facility, if we continue taking Medicaid claims. Uh, and on top of that, so her son's getting less access to care, so that requires more time for her to spend taking care of her son. But the salary that she receives from the government for providing full-time care for her son is going to be cut as well. Not fully, but she's going to get a pay cut. So it's just a terrible situation where she's not going to be able to make ends meet, might lose her house because the only income she has is through this program to pay parents for providing full-time care, and her son's not going to get access to the health care that he needs, the services that he needs to live. I was thinking about that yesterday. I was like, that's such a terrible situation to be in. And it's like, and it's no fault it's nobody's fault that, she is in that situation. That is just the way that the cards, that was how that's how the cards fell, you know, that's just her situation. Her son had this terrible, rare brain condition, and now he requires 150 hours a week of care. And, I mean, what do you do as a parent? I mean, you can't work. Uh, you're trying to keep your kid alive. It is what it is. You're trying to keep your kid alive. You're trying to keep them comfortable and, care for them. And then at the same time, you're worried about, am I going to be able to make my mortgage payment? Am I going to be able to buy food? It's just, she might be homeless, or have to downgrade living to. I can't imagine she's living in a very luxurious house to begin with, given all the medical costs. I mean, she's on Medicaid for Christ's sake. Uh, what do what do you do? What are your options? You don't have any. Uh, it's just it's a bad situation. And then they're talking about how there's states, I think it was Ohio or Oklahoma. It might be Oklahoma, where they have these small health clinics that dot the state. So, small health clinics spread throughout the state who primarily service, Medicaid. Their payer mix is primarily Medicaid, Medicare, what have you. And it's like, these facilities are just going to close. There's no way to operate in the red for any amount of time, you know, because all you know, the people that you care for that need this health care the most, uh, you know, only have Medicaid, and Medicaid's not gonna keep the lights on. It's a really interesting problem to really. It's sad to hear. Medicaid, is a huge portion of every state's budget. Is like covering Medicaid claims, and it's you know it's there are tough choices that have to be made, and it's scary. They were talking about how some of these rural communities already closed down birthing clinics. I forget the actual term for it, but it's where you go when you're giving birth. Already closed those clinics. So it's like if you live out in the country, I mean, you're not going to have a kid in a hospital. You're going to have to give birth at home, which is such a scary thing to think about because it's the most important part of a person's life. I would like to think, giving birth to your child, and you want, there's so many things that could go wrong. I'm not very educated on what risks of childbirth and the complications that can arise both for the child and the mother, but not being able to have access to trained professionals that can make sure that the birth goes well, and that if there's any complications that arise, that they can handle that situation and provide care that is needed uh, is a scary thought. It's not fair. Well, it's not that it's not fair. It's just scary. It's scary for the mother and for the child. And it's unfortunate that these clinics are already gone, and this is just a fact of life that these people have to deal with. Uh, and I don't know how you fix that. You know, because the state only gets a certain amount of money. They approve their budget for the year, and it's like maybe that's something we should look into is what's the source of income for a state when they make their budget. I know it's probably taxation and I guess the GDP of the companies in that state, paying taxes again, but it's uh it's an interesting problem. Healthcare is really important. You know, I would think it's one of the most important things, next to like food security and education, is access to healthcare because you know it's kind of dystopian to think that you can just die in the street. You know what I mean? Like you don't have a health facility that will take care of you if you are sick, if you're injured. Where do you go? The thought of having to drive an hour plus to receive health care is kind of it's crazy to me because I live in a metropolitan area. Uh, but you know, it's you try to you got to think about everyone else in the world. A lot of the population is in metropolitan areas. I'm pretty sure most of the population is in metropolitan cities, but in these rural communities, uh, it's a different type of life. You have to there's a lot of things that we take for granted, uh, and it's something that's important and that should be talked about and on the back of people's minds. It's like I have access to healthcare. I can drive a short distance and get the medical treatment I need for a lot of medical situations. Like I said, birthing clinics, for example. If I have a child, I'm going to be able to deliver it in a hospital if I choose to, which I believe most people should choose to. It's just we have the technology, might as well take advantage of it. But yeah, that was just an interesting article that I read yesterday. Uh, I'm looking forward to doing more research and kind of diving into things. I don't want to really commit uh, too heavily to like we're going to work on this data bill. Again, that was just it's a project to work on it, just keep us engaged. But I think just having these conversations, regardless of the domain, staying engaged is what I'm really looking to get out of this. So I don't want to be hard on myself for pivoting, because one day I don't feel like investigating the data broker economy or market, so but I do want to stay engaged with these national concerns because I think they're important and I think they deserve to have a light shine on them and that more people should be aware of these things. But that's about it. That's really what I wanted to share this morning. Still trying to figure out a schedule, because I do enjoy doing this. I enjoy having these conversations. I don't really have these conversations with other people, because it's how do you bring that up between sports, like be like, yeah, the football team's doing good. Have you thought about healthcare recently? Trying to have those conversations more, uh, but this is a good outlet for me personally to have these discussions and push myself to learn more about things that I don't uh, think about on the day to day. So I'm going to continue to try and do that. I want to do this consistently. I think it'll be fun. Like I said, I think it's good, for me personally, you know. Uh, but yeah, interesting stuff. Healthcare, big challenges. I mean, these our leaders make tough choices. I think we have to have a little bit more empathy for them uh, because these are hard choices. We have really smart people working their hardest to figure out these problems at all levels of government and public and private. I think we can have a little bit more empathy for each other for the problems we face and deal with both personally and at work. Uh, yeah, I was really moved by that story. I was like, God damn, that sucks. That is such an unfortunate situation to be in because what do you do? I mean, how do you not feel powerless? Uh, so I wanted to talk about it. You know, it's the least that I could do for that individual and other individuals in similar situations. It's the least that we can do, and try to think of something, a workaround, because that sucks. It really does suck. Uh, can't wait for the house to get back. I'm looking forward to like watching the. I'm looking forward to watching these during work when I'm pretending to be busy. Just staying engaged with this stuff. Uh, it's kind of funny because the news reports on this stuff. News outlets do report on some of these things, but it's kind of cool to see it, first person, and you can see what they're talking about and see how these, lawmakers act, see how they debate, what issues are being brought to attention, what issues aren't getting light on the news, because I think the news reports on a specific subset of things that drives views. I think that's been my whole disposition for a while now. It's like I don't really have to watch the news because it's kind of the same shit over and over again. And you know, the nation is not defined by this small subset of problems. There's a huge, there's a big picture that we have to look at. So I really enjoy looking at some of the areas that don't get as much coverage. Like I don't know if I brought this up the other day, but there's a act, free water. It's not the Clean Water Act. Water as a commodity that uh, Senator Warren. Uh, it is this bill. Uh, Basically, they're debating on whether water should be traded as a commodity, which historically, things that have been traded as a commodity uh, are kind of, there's a trending issue of market manipulation. So, like, I don't know if I've talked about this. I feel like I've ranted on this, but like Enron has done it with energy, or Enron did it with energy in California, like the California rolling blackouts. The electricity crisis. Uh, Enron took advantage of this. Partial deregulation was involved in economic withholding, inflated markets. I thought they said something more. Yeah, like Enron created artificial shortages, demand supply gap, and funny enough, the same thing. I did talk about this because I remember pulling this up on the U.S. code, but it also happened with onions. Two guys bought all the shares of onion futures and were able to crash the onion market. So it's there's things like this that are super important because everyone needs water to live, and it's like we're debating on whether it should be you know potentially uh, influenced for economic reasons, for people to make a profit. Uh, Nobody seems to want to talk. That doesn't get attention in the news. And I think that's super important. So, again, I just want to keep looking. I want to keep finding these, really impactful things that don't seem to have the light shot, shown on them. People don't hear about it, but we trust these people to make these decisions. So, again, trying to bridge the gap, somewhere in the middle is something where we can all have a conversation on. But yeah, still got to figure out how I'm going to do this consistently. I want to do it consistently, but I have commitment issues. So, try to do this, try to maintain my responsibilities at work, and my personal commitments, Uh, but yeah, yeah, your your local House representative is going to be in your home state, so reach out to them, tell them how you feel. They're that's the reason they're going home. They're here to listen to you, so make your voices heard. Uh, look into something before you before you reach out. Don't look like an asshole, but you know, they're there. So reach out to them, make your voice heard. Your opinion matters. Yeah, I gotta head to work. Take care of that can of worms. We might be back later today. We might not. But I'm really looking forward to this weekend. Looking forward to Thursday and Friday. I'll definitely be going live after work. So, yeah, take care. Have a good day. Attack the day. And, uh, excuse me. Let's get after it. Let's make America. Let's let's make our communities better. Let's be the best people. Let's be the best version of ourselves today. How about that? That's a good one to end on. I'll see you when I see you.